Cultural exchange officer Talith shifted uncomfortably in their environmental suit as they followed the human guide deeper into what the locals called Les Catacombes de Paris. The ancient tunnels were narrow, the carved limestone walls pressing in from all sides. Their species' natural aversion to confined spaces wasn't helping, but that wasn't what made their primary stomach churn. It was the bones. Everywhere bones. Not just scattered or buried with proper reverence, but arranged, stacked, architecturally incorporated into the very structure of these underground passages. Hundreds of thousands of human skeletal remains carefully organized and positioned into walls, archways, and artistic displays. "And here we have one of our most famous features," the guide said cheerfully, gesturing to what appeared to be a fountain basin made entirely of femurs and skulls. This arrangement dates back to the late 18th century, when the city's cemeteries were becoming overcrowded. Talith's translation implant rendered the guide's words perfectly, but they almost wished it hadn't. Their secondary breathing bladder constricted in horror. You built with them?" Talith's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. The guide turned, her headlamp illuminating her pleasant smile. "Oh yes, the ossuary was carefully designed. Each bone was cleaned and sorted before being placed. Some of the arrangements are quite artistic. Notice how the skulls form geometric patterns in this section." Talith's report to the Galactic Cultural Exchange Bureau was going to be interesting. How could they possibly explain this? On their world, the mere thought of disturbing ancestral remains was taboo. The humans hadn't just disturbed their dead, they'd repurposed them into infrastructure. "But these were your people, your ancestors," Talith managed to say. The guide's expression softened with understanding. "Yes, exactly. And now they're part of something that millions of people come to see and remember them by. Instead of lying forgotten in overcrowded graves, they became part of Paris's history. Every skull you see was once a person who lived and loved in this city." Talith's sensors detected a subtle shift in the guide's vocal patterns. Pride? Reverence? They forced themselves to look more closely at the walls of bones. Behind their initial horror, they began to notice something else. The careful precision of the arrangements, the deliberate patterns, the way each bone had been placed with obvious attention and care. "You honor them by remembering them this way?" Talith asked slowly. "We do. Every visitor who walks these tunnels faces mortality and connects with Paris's past. These bones tell our city's story." As they continued the tour, Talith's scientific training gradually overcame their cultural shock. They began taking careful notes about this uniquely human approach to death and remembrance. The humans hadn't desecrated their dead. They'd transformed them into a monument that had endured for centuries. Near the end of the tour, Talith paused to capture one final image. A small plaque, embedded among the bones, bearing words their translator rendered as "Ah ardente, c'est ici l'empire de la mort." End of chapter 10, The Wise Wonders of the Empire. Stop. This is the empire of death. Their final report would note that only humans could create an empire of death and turn it into a celebration of life and memory. Perhaps that was why they'd survived all their self-made catastrophes to reach the stars. Any species that could look death in the face and build something beautiful from it was not to be underestimated. As they emerged into the Paris sunshine, Talith found themselves wondering what other surprises these remarkable humans had in store for the galaxy. They had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time humanity's approach to the impossible would leave them questioning their assumptions. When they submitted their report, they made sure to include one final observation. The humans don't just honor their dead, they build with them, learn from them, and carry them into the future. Perhaps this is why they face that future with such remarkable fearlessness. thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. If you did, please be sure to give it a like. Feel free to comment and share this story too. It helps the channel grow. Let's make this channel huge together.